The divisional previews are brought to you by Chinook Seedery, the best seeds ever. Use our promo code CoachesSonsPod at checkout to get 10% off. On to the show.
Hit it.
Welcome to the Coach's Sons podcast. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Chris.
And you are listening to the divisional series. So, if this is your first or your sixth, thank you so much for joining us once again. Today, we're going to be talking about the AL Central. Chris, this division, I don't want to say we got wrong, but there's a team in here that embarrassed us greatly. And so, if you don't know what we're talking about, the Royals, Chris and I both at the beginning of last year said, no way, no how is this team going to be any good. And they proved us wrong. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away from it. I don't think we predicted the White Sox being as terrible as they are, but there were some surprises. So what are you expecting this year?
So I'm excited for the preview of the Royals. So I'm ready to become a believer again. Okay. I don't want to play them as a Mariners fan. However, from the outside looking in, I could root for them a little bit. But yeah, they really shoved it down our throats. I forget at this point what the win total was, but it was well below 86. It might have even been like, I don't even know if it was 500 for them.
No, I think their win was in the 70s, like 72.
And even that was like a huge improvement.
Yeah,
so it's like there's no way this is happening, and there they go winning 86 games on their en route to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think I need to listen to what's about to be said here from everybody before I give that initial time. I know we're going to pick our first and last, but I mean the Tigers were pretty surprising too overall.
I completely agree.
Skubal, notwithstanding, he was not surprising in the slightest, but their actual success matching the Royals in wins, 86, both of them made the playoffs. I think that was very surprising. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I very well may have taken the Twins because I felt the Twins were Milwaukee Brewers-esque and like, okay, we've got enough guys. We'll be fine to move forward and win the division, like without a doubt. But, the Guardians came back, took it. And there's been a lot of moving and shaking amongst these teams thus far. Yep. At least from what I'm looking at. Royals made some adds. They lost a few guys, nothing crazy. The Tigers restocked, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. So I think they're ready to make a push. The Guardians, I don't know. I'm torn on them right now, but again, willing to be convinced.
I mean, one of the better teams in the league last year.
They are, yes. They're pitching, especially bullpen, very, very good.
Very good.
Lights out, some might say. They were incredible, and that kind of carried them through everything going on. So I think, we said it last year is like, oh, the Central's going to be the two closest divisions, and they were the two runaway divisions.
They were, yeah.
So we couldn't have been more wrong in any capacity there. But I do think it'll be another fun year for this particular division, and it is up in the air. I want to say the Twins are going to be on the outside looking in again because they didn't really.
I mean, tradition shows they don't do a lot, and this division keeps getting stronger. And if you're not going to add, you're not going to expect any type of upgrade, record-wise. So I don't disagree with you, right? Okay, but I think we both agree bottom dwellers are the White Sox, right? No ifs, ands, no buts. That's not even a question. Is historically bad. Do they have any real additions this year, Chris? You said you were looking at it.
The White Sox.
Yeah.
I can name the guys. They added Josh Rojas from the Seattle Mariners, sure. Martin Perez, Austin Slater, Mike Tauchman, Bryce Wilson, Michael A. Taylor. So, no.
Okay. Yeah. Man, the White Sox.
And then they lost Crochet, Soroka, and Yohan Moncada. Make your argument about whether or not Yohan Moncada was a loss for them.
Right.
But
still,
they're not. Yeah. We've got a preview for them. We're gonna listen. We're gonna hear it out. Yohan Moncada had a .3 WAR last year, but he was only 40 at bats, so whatever. I almost was as good as him from my couch.
Hey, you know what? That's really impressive of you, Chris. It really is. All right, so we both agree who the bottom dwellers
Yes.
are. So, all right, who do we think is going to be the winner of this division? So this is tough. Here's the deal. You got the favorites, who I think are the Guardians after last year's performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the darlings, which are the Royals, Bobby Witt Jr., complete stud, MVP votes. And then you have the outsiders that somehow, like the ragtag group that figured it out, the Tigers. Like you've already mentioned, they seem to be doing some things to make that group that somehow made it into playoffs better. So there's an argument to be made for every single one of these teams. I'm going to right now say I'm going to stick with the favorites. I'm very favorite heavy when it comes to betting, right? If we're doing March Madness, I'm chalk,
Okay.
for the most part. So I'm going to stick with the Guardians right now, but I can be convinced otherwise. So I'm very interested to see what these other fans have to say about their team, because I can be swayed. I am teetering in all three directions.
You're
so
ready to be?
I'm ready to be swayed. What about you?
I'm going to do the unthinkable to start. I'm going. You know what? I take that back. I'm going to pick the Tigers. I think the Tigers have done enough this offseason. We'll get into it, when we do their portion of it. But I think they did enough this offseason to add to, an already existing school bowl. And yes, they added Jack Flaherty, who they already had last year.
Re-added.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, thing for him to kind of get traded. They got a few things for him, and now he's back.
Yep.
But maybe that's what needed to happen for him to be able to step into that role. I think those guys, the rest of the squad will improve. Jackson Jobe is on the way. He very well could make the rotation out of spring. And then those bats, they have to be healthy. And again, I don't know how many times we've said this thus far. It's been a lot. So if you listen to the other ones, you're going to hear it.
Yep.
We're assuming everybody's healthy. So if that Tigers lineup is indeed healthy, gives full seasons from everybody, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Kerry Carpenter is very good. Like Parker Meadows, I think he's actually going to miss the start. But they got Gleyber Torres to go along with this. What did they get out of Torkelson? We don't know. And then of course they have Javi Baez, the best player in the league. No, I think that they've made substantial improvements across the board on top of just development of the guys they already have. So I'm going to pick them for right now, but I can be deterred.
Okay. Well, we have, like you said, we've got previews for all of them. So we're going to start, again, alphabetical order. Guardians are going to kick us off. Chris, who do we have for the Guardians?
We have Jay Hay from Baseball is Dead. He was good, cool enough to submit one for him. So again, at Jay Hay Kid, and then Baseball is Dead podcast with Carabas and Braden and all them. So let's see
Awesome.
what we got.
Can't wait to hear it.
Hit it.
Hey, thanks for having me on for the yearly Guardians preview. This is Justin Havens, Jay Hay of the Baseball is Dead podcast. Be sure to check out Baseball is Dead and Slab Lab with Dallas Braden up on the YouTube channel. Talking Guardians here for about 3 minutes or so. On this very podcast last year, I believe I came on and proudly proclaimed that I was going to take the Guardians to win the AL Central in 2024. That bucked the consensus for most of the division. Most people were taking the Twins at this time last year. It also bucked most of the projection systems. But that's exactly what ended up happening. The Guardians went 92-69 last season and won the division by 6.5 games. As everybody listening to this podcast knows, they outscored opponents by 87 runs. All of those sound really good and would suggest that a repeat prediction of the Guardians winning the division is in store. Unfortunately, that's probably not what I'm here to do today. I have been significantly disappointed with the Guardians offseason, although not particularly surprised. coming off of that 92 win season last year. They are projected to be a much worse team this season by most projection systems. I'll use Fangraphs for the purposes of this discussion. They are currently pegging them for 78 wins and a 10% chance to win the AL Central and a 20% chance to make the postseason at all. Those are both fourth in the division behind, as you would expect, the Tigers, Royals, and Twins. They rank 20th or worse. That is, the Guardians do. Per the Fangraphs depth charts, in terms of projected wins above replacement at various positions at first base, second base, shortstop, center field, and right field. And I think the most surprising thing, if you're a long-term Guardians fan, although not surprising if you witnessed the team last season, is that they project as the fourth worst team by starting pitching WAR per Fangraphs, ahead of only the Rockies, who play at Coors, obviously, the White Sox, and the A's. That's a place that the Guardians franchise has quite simply not found themselves very often, really at any point over the last 15 years, 2 decades. Tanner Bybee, Ben Lively, Gavin Williams, Luis Ortiz, Tristan McKenzie, Shane Bieber on the mend. That is essentially a collection of Tanner Bybee and 4 or 5 complete and utter question marks. And while I am optimistic about what we've seen from Gavin Williams so far this spring, I think Luis Ortiz was an interesting target for the team this offseason in terms of live arms. And obviously Shane Bieber has demonstrated that he can pitch at the very top of the league when he's healthy. All of those things are still essentially question marks. When is Bieber returning? What level is he pitching at when he does? Can Gavin Williams translate this spring success to the regular season? Can Luis Ortiz translate his stuff into regular season success? All of those are question marks, and they don't come with the typical locked in members at the front of the rotation that Guardians fans have come to enjoy over the seasons. What's most frustrating to me as I wrap up here is that the level of investment this offseason and just in general just continues to be so low for Cleveland. They rank ahead of only the Rays, Pirates, White Sox, A's, and Marlins in terms of payroll. Those are basically, if you're going to name 5 teams that are mocked consistently for lack of regular investment in their product, those are the 5 teams in Major League Baseball. The Guardians joined those teams, and they have lowered payroll relative to last season. And I just think it's a shame that we are still in very much the prime of what is going to go down as one of the single greatest careers in Guardians history in Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez will go into the Hall of Fame. He will obviously go into the Hall of Fame as a member wearing a Cleveland C on his hat. He was just as good last season as he has been during the entirety of his run. There is essentially no erosion in performance going on right now. He posted a 143 OPS plus during the 2024 season. His average from 2017 to 2023 was 139. So technically he was a little bit better last season than he has been during his Hall of Fame peak. And the Guardians continue to do so very little to surround him with talent that would allow them to compete at the highest level. The one thing that I think they will be saved by and that could allow them to make the playoffs, I still think that's a viable path, is that the AL is just completely mediocre. There is no great team on paper. There is no team that you can confidently point to and say this team is going to win 95 games. This team is going to win 100 games. There's the very likelihood that we're talking about 8 to 10 teams that are in that big blob of 78 to 88 wins. I expect Cleveland to be in that group. And given the magic that they've worked in previous seasons, I think it's entirely possible that they could be battling for the AL Central title. I just look around and I see a lot of other teams, at least 2 other teams, that made significantly more effort in trying to get better this offseason than the Guardians did, and they were very nearly as good as the Guardians already. And what I saw the Guardians do is mostly actively get worse by trading Josh Naylor, by trading Andres Jimenez. I understand there's rationale for both of those deals, but regardless of how you slice it, those deals made the team worse almost certainly in 2025 than they would have been with those players on the roster. That's talking Guardians, not as optimistic as I was last year. But given the state of the AL, there's still plenty of opportunity for even a diminished version of the Guardians team, or a disappointing version of what the Guardians could be, to do some serious damage in the AL regular season.
All
All right, that was Jay Hay from Baseball is Dead. Thank you very much for that. So I'll start by asking you a question. Are you moving them from number one already?
I tell you what,
do you even need to hear anybody else right now?
This is the first time I've been talked off that ledge so quick. He started off hot too, like 78 wins, which is a huge drop off.
That's just what the projections are.
Yeah,
he didn't make that up. That's just what he's reading. That's Fangraphs.
Crazy. I will say my confidence in the Guardians is waned a lot. So
that's why we do these.
Exactly. Like, we don't understand the echo chamber. For me, like the Guardians they're kind of like the Rays. They figure it out. They know how to win games. But he's right. Like they haven't done anything to improve the team. They took very much the Twins approach this year, whereas the Royals and the Tigers did not. They added. So that's a very good reason to be like, well, this doesn't look good. Now, maybe the front office thinks that they have enough firepower to run it back. I can't imagine that makes a lot of sense. Don't know what they're doing in Cleveland. I do agree with him. Like Jose is a great ball player.
Oh yeah.
And it sucks that he's not been given a chance to really compete at the highest level. As of right now, I mean, we'll see if the Royals and Tigers guys are just as ho hum, then maybe not. But right now,
I don't see that. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I think I'm backing off the Guardians. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot's different when you have Jose Ramirez in the middle of your order, right? He changes games. He's not Aaron Judge in stature, but he's Aaron Judge is an equivalent, right? He's 7 WAR type guy, 6.5 WAR. He's a very, very, very good baseball player and has done it no matter who the hell has been around him. Mm-hmm. So just speaks to how good he is. Stephen Kwan, solid.
Yep.
Lane Thomas, okay. Then they got rid of Josh Naylor for what reason, I have no idea.
Yeah.
They bring back Carlos Santana. I love Carlos Santana personally. However, he's 39 years old.
Yeah,
I don't think that
towards
was
the end.
That's the right move to make. They do have postseason superstar Big Christmas, the modern day shot heard around the world.
Best nickname in baseball right now.
Did you see him dress up with like the Santa and ornament thing?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah,
I have to look that up.
It's badass, but I don't even know if he's an everyday player.
I don't think he
throughout
is.
a season, right?
No, I mean, that's why the home run was.
lefties.
Yeah, that's why the home run was so magical.
So, and like that's the lineup, right? Like, okay, Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, the catcher, Gabriel Arias, Kyle Manzardo. He's still figuring it out, but he's going to be 25. So you're losing that window of he's still young, he's figuring it out. Like, listen, man, we need you, and you better hit.
Yeah, I mean, looking up and down that lineup, there's nothing there that's.
So, and the only saving grace, and he gave a little bit of insight to it, was the pitching. A lot of question marks.
Yeah.
And if any team could turn, a questionable pitcher into someone very serviceable, it is the Guardians. They've done it time and time again. But when we do all this talk about rotation and you have to have this strong top, like Tanner Bybee is your ace, that's fine if you have other 2 starters and 3 starters, right? And you're just like, okay, we have to name a guy the opening day starter. Shane Bieber is still their guy, but I don't know how long he's out for.
Right.
But
and will he be the guy when he gets back?
Correct.
Yeah.
From Bybee, it's Luis Ortiz. Jay Hay said, question mark. Gavin Williams. His stuff is good. He has great stuff.
He's a big kid.
He reminds me very much of Nick Lodolo of the Reds. And I hope it's not that same trajectory. And I don't even know if Gavin Williams is lefty or not. I feel like he's a lefty.
But he is a lefty, yes.
So that's why I'm going with...
No, I'm sorry. He bats lefty. He throws righty.
Okay. Well, regardless, I get the same vibe where it's like everything's there. And they just got to put it together. And then they just never... Lodolo really hasn't completely put it together. And I think... Williams is a little younger, like a year or 2. So he's still got a chance. Tristan McKenzie, who we all loved last year prior to the season, had a horrific...
Not a good season.
A horrific season. I'm going to look it up because it is that bad. A 5.1 ERA. He was good for negative 0.6 WAR.
That's a
I had a
negative
better
WAR,
season than Tristan McKenzie
sitting
did
on the
last
couch.
year. So I love that stupid.
That's actually a really
point.
great stat. Like I
was just better than him. I was more valuable than him
I'm better
to the
to him
Cleveland
for the
Guardians
team.
than he was to that team. Right? Like just that's just bad.
Yeah.
And they have this crazy bullpen that they concoct. Manuel Clase is still one of the best.
He's elite,
but
but not one of the best. He might be the best.
Correct. He's virtually unhittable. Cade
Sans
Smith,
the
very
playoff
good.
performance. His
Well,
playoff
we don't
performance
talk
is not
about
good.
that yet. But yeah, I mean, so hopefully that doesn't bleed over. Hopefully that doesn't ruin him forever.
Yeah.
But with everything that's happening in terms of this team and this roster construction, do you think at some point it's just Class A goes too? Is it even? Do you lose the fan base more if you're just like, hey, Class A is available, let me get God knows what back?
They'd have to get a lot back I mean.
You'd be. I'm just now. I'm talking out of my ass.
Yeah,
there, but I'm
that
just saying.
seem.
If they're going to win 78 games, that's a huge disappointment based off of the 92 they had last year. Usually you win the division, you're high. Vibes are going. You should be adding. You should be getting better. They didn't like Austin Hedges re-signed, Shane Bieber re-signed, Carlos Santana, Paul Sewald. I like the guy, former Mariner, but. He's got a lot to be desired. John Means, I don't know when he's going to pitch. He hasn't pitched in like 3 years. I like the guy. Good guy. Our RDT likes him coming from Baltimore. However, I don't know much else about him. Again, Luis Ortiz, maybe they can make something out of him. But they lost Andres Jimenez, Alex Cobb, Matthew Boyd, who, say what you want about Matthew Boyd and Alex Cobb, they had very good seasons for this team last year.
Yeah.
So, and then Eli Morgan, Josh Naylor, Miles Straw. Screw Miles Straw. I don't really give a shit about him. But Josh Naylor is the other big one. I just don't think, I didn't off the rip say, oh, they're going to be the fourth best team, but I'm almost ready to just plant them there.
Yeah, I'm interested. Yeah,
I'm ready to say that unless we just don't think the Twins didn't do a ton. So maybe we can argue that, but I don't know. That's where I'm at. I think we can be convinced otherwise, but it feels like a 3-4 right now. There's going to be a dogfight. Let's see.
All right, I definitely agree with that. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go to the Royals, which we traditionally were just not a fan of. Gave that fan base a whole bunch of crap because no one would submit to us. Well, guess what? They played out of their minds. They're a good baseball team, and now their fans are submitting to us. And so we humbly apologize, and we are willing to become Royals fans if he can convince us to do that. So, Chris, who do we got?
So I when he agreed to do it, I let him know our previous take. I was like, just good. So you know, this is what we're going into. But this is Jack Johnson. His ad is at Johnny JOHNYJ _15. That's a tough one. JOHNYJ _15. He's the host of Locked On Royals with the Locked On Network.
Nice.
So take us away.
Hit it.
When looking at the 2025 Royals, a lot of it is going to hinge on what that rotation looks like. And there should be some regression that is expected coming off of what last year was. Maybe not so much of the overall numbers, but the health. The Royals were very fortunate to have a healthy rotation last year, with the exception of Michael Wacha landing on the IL with a fractured foot, Alec Marsh ending up on the IL after getting hit by a comebacker. They were able to keep that rotation intact for the majority of 162. And that's something you just can't bank on happening again in 2025. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But what J.J. Picollo and the Royals front office did in the offseason was add to that bullpen, bringing in somebody like Carlos Estevez and almost building around Lucas Ursig as their fireman to ensure that if there is some regression, they can have a much stronger bullpen than they had for the majority of 2024. And when you circle back to that lineup, you bring in Jonathan India, a much improved leadoff hitter than what they had in that spot last year. Maikel Garcia and Michael Massey will still be in the starting nine, but they're not being tasked with leading off the game and hitting right in front of Bobby Witt Jr. And with the walk rate that India had last year in Cincinnati, top 5, I'd imagine that Royals fans will see a pretty nice change up there up top. And, you know, the middle of that order, it is going to be a question mark for that number 5, number 6 spot. It was one area they couldn't nail in free agency, but you have Vinny Pasquantino who can drive in over 100. Salvador Perez can do the same thing if he's healthy. And then you're hoping someone like a Michael Massey or MJ Melendez can surprise a lot of people and be a big-time contributor for that lineup. but you should expect them to be in it for the entirety of the year. I mean, when you have an MVP candidate and a strong rotation and a competent bullpen, you can get into that 85 to 90 win territory. And with the state of the American League Central, it's absolutely up for grabs again.
Hit it.
All right, so we got a Royals preview finally. And look, I look at this lineup, and it doesn't really scare me. I mean, I do think Jonathan India is a upgrade they needed. They needed somebody in front of Bobby for sure. So that's a step in the right direction. But it does sound like there's a lot of question marks still about where's power going to come from, right? And I think that's the biggest question mark. Like, who's going to drive runs in? Like, it can't just be the Bobby Witt show. Now, Bobby Witt put that team on his shoulders and made sure they got to the playoffs. But that's kind of where it ended. You know what I mean? This starting lineup of pitchers like Reagans, Lugo, Wacha, Lorenzen, I mean, that's pretty damn good, right? But he was right. Lots of health wins. As a fan of a team that the health doesn't hold up, it must be nice. But it's not something you can bank on. But again, we said we're looking at teams without taking injury into.
We're staying healthy.
Exactly.
Again.
I didn't realize that. I forgot they added Carlos Estevez, from the Angels.
Phillies, Angels, Phillies.
He bounced around twice. That's right. Yeah, solid arm. And if he's not going to close, then he's a great setup guy. I think pitching is definitely the strength there in Kansas City. But I don't know if I'm convinced that they can win the division, but they're definitely going to be a part of the conversation because, like everyone's pointed out so far, the American League is going to be a mess of teams in that 80 win range. So what are your thoughts, Chris?
I think that they're in play for the division. They can make something happen. Cole Reagans is a bona fide ace. I do not think, and again, maybe they make me eat crow, I do not think Seth Lugo is going to replicate what he did last year. He was incredible. I think he finished third in Cy Young, if I'm not mistaken.
We were very ho-hum about that signing last year for sure. And he proved us very, very
I
wrong.
was. And, he stepped up. I mean, he had where the hell is he? He had a 5.3 WAR, and
that's good.
Sorry, he finished second in Cy Young voting.
Second, okay.
Now, mind you, Skubal I think he was unanimous, or he should have been. But anyway, that's still a ridiculous season. To answer your question about power, yeah, it comes from Bobby Witt Jr. He's got 30 of them. Salvador Perez, he's getting a little bit older. He's going to have to put the ball in play a little bit more, but he's the other source of power. And I think Vinny P. Pasquantino they need him to be healthy. They don't have much wiggle room if he's not. Now, I don't know their timeline, but Jack Caglione from Florida, he's mashing right now.
Yeah.
We don't care about spring training, but he's mashing. Mm-hmm. And maybe we do care about spring training if that performance is going to put you on the opening day roster.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So there's a chance. He's not ruled out yet as of whenever the hell we're recording this, but he might also be a source of power coming down the line. Maybe he insert DH here, or maybe he plays the outfield.
I was looking at DH. They have nobody.
He very well could be. I think Perez, with Perez catching and he plays a little bit of first, they're going to move guys around. Indy as the table setter helps out a lot. If he's going to actually bat leadoff, that's a big deal for them. But yeah, there is a pretty big drop off pretty quick. Hunter Renfroe, not really what he used to be. Kyle Isbell, Michael Massey. He's a second baseman. He could be your 9 hitter. Sure, he'll be serviceable. I'm not questioning that, but I do think they gain a lot from this bullpen. Lucas Ursig and Carlos Estevez on the very back end give quick remnants of that bullpen that they used to have when they were competing for a World Series.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
They did have 3 guys.
Yep.
I don't want to put Hunter Harvey in there just yet because he did not have a great season last year. I was more valuable than him last year. But Ursig and Estevez are just about as good as you could get when you combine the two.
Yeah.
Right. So they're very, very good. They're going to be on the back in the games. As he was saying, I think Ursig's more of like the Swiss Army knife. Like, hey, I need you in the 8th. Get me out of this type of guy. But there is something to say about that too.
Yeah.
So while I don't love the entirety, Michael Garcia, solid player, but I don't know. So I don't love the entirety of the lineup. I think there's a steep fall off after Witt, India, Vinny P, Salvador Perez.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Very steep, in my opinion. And I haven't learned my lesson to doubt them, but I'm going to doubt them nowhere near as much as I was last year. Not like this team stinks. They're going to go back to 80 wins.
This team is going to compete for the division. This team's going to compete for a playoff spot. 100%.
Yes, I'm fully convinced they will be in a similar spot. I don't think record-wise they get worse. I think on a player-by-player basis, some guys do a little better, some guys do a little worse, and maybe they get that bump from Cags. We'll see what happens. So I'm not writing them off. I don't know if I have enough to say that they're going to be first, but again, to the point of what you were saying, they made moves. They needed a second baseman. They needed a leadoff guy. They got rid of Singer to make it happen.
Yep.
They needed bullpen or more strength there. They got Carlos Estevez. Michael Lorenzen, I think they brought him back. I think he's going to start again, but maybe not.
Could be long relief, yeah.
Who the hell knows? They could go 6-man. They could move them around. Who knows exactly what they're going to do? But those were the major acquisitions. And then again, who'd they lose? Brady Singer, which was the trade. They needed that to happen. Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, Paul DeYoung, and Yoeli Gurriel. They didn't lose much.
Yeah.
So the only problem is going to be Seth Lugo regressing a little bit. But the rest of these guys very much could step up and replace that little bit of drop off, right? Waka wasn't healthy all last year.
Yep. Yeah,
so I in my head, I want to say they're third, but I'm not ready to say that yet. I still think that they have a good team. I think that they need to do a little bit more throughout the season, trade deadline type stuff. But that's where I'm at with them at the current juncture of our podcast.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I am still being convinced both directions. So let's move on to the next team and see where we stand after that. Let's go to the Detroit Tigers. Chris, who do we have for the Detroit Tigers?
Detroit Tigers, we've got Griff. His is at deep to center. All one word, deep to center. Well, that's how ats work, by the way.
It is.
Deep to center. And I believe at deep to center is going to be his YouTube and Twitch stream. So give him a follow there, but let's see what Tigers baseball is all about.
Hit it.
I think the Tigers are in a weird spot this year where if they came out and won 90-plus games, I don't think people would be majorly surprised. But if they came out and lost more than 90 games, I don't think people would be surprised either. So, they're a good team. They have a lot of young talent. Their rotation, honestly, their entire pitching staff is something I'm not that worried about. I think they'll be in the top 10, top 15 in all baseball at the minimum, maybe top 5. You've got Skubal, obviously. Job should be on the team, if not right away, within a month or two. But Casey Mize is looking the best he's looked since they drafted him. I mean, he looks like he's going to be a shoo-in for the rotation. Jack Flaherty's back, and we know how good he was with the Tigers last year. Something with our pitching coach, Chris Fetter, and him just clicks. Reese Olson is a very, very good young pitcher, and then they've got so many other options beyond just that. Alex Cobb will come back at some point. So their pitching staff is good. Their bullpen's really solid. Andrew Chafin just came back on a minor league deal, and I'm sure he'll get playing time. But they don't even really need him necessarily because they've got enough pieces that they can survive without him. Offensively is going to be the big question mark. I think Riley Green, as long as he's healthy, is going to be a good all-star level player. Kerry Carpenter, he's going to be pretty solid as well, but he will probably still mostly face righties. I know he's trying to get chances to face lefties. That's one of his big goals this spring, and he's had a couple hits off lefties, but I don't know if that'll change the trajectory of his season. But he should be pretty solid. And then you've got a lot of question marks of, Colt Keith at first base. Can he take the next step this year? Parker Meadows, when he comes back from injury, is he going to take the next step this year? Catcher situation, Jake Rogers and Dylan Dingler. What are you going to get out of them this year? Third base, Jace Young, Matt Vierling. There's just a lot of young players and moving pieces that you need to click and very well can click for it to work. I forgot to mention Gleyber Torres, great addition. I think he'll be fine. He'll be a good bat at the top of their order, but yeah, they just need a lot of things to go right, and if they do go right, then they can be a division-winning team and make a run in the playoffs.
Hit it.
All right, Griff, thank you very much. Again, that was Griff at Deep to Center. Diehard Tigers fan. Catch him on Twitch and YouTube at that same @. Well, I'm rethinking my pick now as well.
I think both of us.
Shit.
Man.
Do you have we might need to roll a dice or something.
I know, right?
See what the hell's going on. Yeah, just close our eyes and figure it out. So I was high on them to, at the very beginning of this of, hey, they had 86. They made key additions. They didn't lose anybody, right? They brought back Jack Flaherty. Gleyber Torres is a nice add. Then, they brought in Alex Cobb, who we were just talking about with the Guardians losing. Like, okay, he's good. He's going to miss a little bit of time, I think, to start the year. But a veteran arm to be their fourth starter, perfect. I'm good with that. So let's start with the strength. Rotation.
Yep.
Unanimous. I don't care if he was unanimous or not. He was my unanimous Cy Young. Tarek Skubal.
100%.
Take the ball every fifth day. He's going to shove it up somebody's ass, and he's going to give you a chance to win every single time. So figure out how to win his starts.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Jack Flaherty, who pitched, I believe he had a very good season last year.
Okay, so quite literally, until the All-Star break, his numbers were just as good as Skubal's.
Okay.
Because I can remember us doing the halfway point. I'm like, Skubal's technically the second best pitcher on the Tigers.
No, yeah, you made that up anyway. He had a 2.4 ER or 2.4 WAR
at the All-Star break.
I mean, through his 18 games.
Yeah. Anyways, he had a very good. Flaherty had a very good start to the season. It's why he
was good.
It's
yeah,
why
he wasn't Skubal.
They got a ransom for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay, so bringing him back was big. He's there
that's good.
too. Good. Happy there. Reese Olson. I expect a lot out of him. I think a lot of people do.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that the team hinges on his success, but that's the breaking point, right? If you remember, I know you were very angry about it when they went into the postseason series. Like, here's the Tigers, and we have Skubal. And this is what we have.
And bullpen games.
Right, and a ton of arms that we're going to throw at you and try and screw you up. And, it kind of worked, but not really, right? In the big picture, it didn't work. But you now have Skubal, Flaherty. That's a solid 1-2 punch. I'm fine with that. Reese Olson kind of has to step up to be able to be that 3.
Yep.
And if not, Cobb has to come back to be that 3. So they have to be serviceable in that regard. I'm talking from a postseason perspective.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the top of talk about top heavy, right? They very much are. We're still waiting on, again, same. Casey Mize, 28 years old. Good Lord. I've been waiting on that guy to be good for the last 7 years. A little better than I was last year. 0.1 WAR.
Okay, he's better than you.
Very. Spent a lot of time to be better than me. I spent 0 in the lab, all right? No, so we're waiting on him to come along. Do they get anything out of him? I'm most excited to see Jackson Jobe.
Yep.
I would love to see him. I feel like they threw him to the dogs in the postseason there. They put him in relief, and he got smoked.
He did,
I wasn't
yeah.
a big fan of that. But whatever, maybe he doesn't give a shit. He's undeterred. He throws super hard. He was quoted actually, I think yesterday, a couple days ago, was like, I'm not here to dot a gnat's ass. I'm just going to throw as hard as I fucking can, basically. Right? And you're like, all right, I like
that.
this guy.
I love that. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It is about location and stuff, but sometimes I throw harder than you can hit. Let's see. Come get it.
Catch up.
So I hope, with that mentality and that, he might get humbled quickly, but he's going to be part of this rotation at some point this season.
Yep.
Hopefully he makes that jump.
Well, think about it. If the Tigers can get both Olson and Jobe to hit, even not even hit ace level, but if they can both be solid 3s.
Correct. That's all they need. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying they need to be Jack Flaherty level.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If both of them hit, that's going to be amazing. If one of them hits, that's still a huge win for the Tigers. And so, he mentioned how high he was on Mize, right? So that's technically 3 different pitchers that they have an opportunity to, if they pitch where expectations are, then this could be a really, 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 really strong rotation and a
pitching
strength
staff.
Yeah, like that's what's win championships is pitching. So
bullpen's full of just guys.
Yeah, I think
Tyler
Foley
Foley
will
was
close.
decent last year. Well, I see. I'm looking at the Fangraphs like team projection. They have Tyler Holton, Bo Brysky, and Jason Foley all listed as closers.
Okay, yeah,
and
that's
then
what I was
everybody
thinking.
else is a middle. Like most teams have like setup man. This is just there's 3 closers and then a ton of middle.
They'll
relievers.
figure it out.
Yeah. So. Needless to say, I'm not worried about their bullpen situation. They seem to be able to find. I'm trying to think of another word, but find good arms,
make it
plug
work.
them in. Yes. So pitching isn't my concern. We're talking lineup.
Okay, so the lineup is why I did not pick them to win the division, because I look at this lineup and I just go, Gleyber Torres is not going to get it done. Is Jace Young Josh's little brother or older brother or twin brother?
Jace is younger than Josh, but I don't know if there's any relation. You would think that they are related.
Young's a weird, Jung is a weird last name that you would think if there's 2 of them, they both start with J, I would assume that they're brothers.
They are brothers.
Okay, good.
Jace
Thank
is
you.
the younger brother.
Makes me feel a lot better. Okay. So yeah, obviously Baez is going to hit like 50 home runs, right?
No, he might not even make that.
They have to keep paying him, I guess. But Riley Green
they're
obviously is the one that, is the best player there.
Yes.
But I don't know. I just don't know. And of course you don't have to score a lot of runs with the pitching staff that's good if they end up being that good, but I just don't know that they will be. So that lineup has too many holes for me to be like, this is a division winning team. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, convince me, Chris, cause I can't, I don't know if I am.
They scored. So again, to the point of their pitching, they gave up the second least runs in the division. The Guardians only gave up 621. They gave up 642. And I'm trying to find teams to compare.
Oh,
them
you looking
to.
at scoring differential? I love scoring differential.
So they were plus 40, but
Okay.
they only
Wow.
scored 682. So how? That's more than the Mariners. Fuck, that sucks. You know what? This one's surprising, but I'm gonna say it's an outlier because they had a down year. But they scored basically the same amount of runs as the Texas Rangers. So, and I like the Rangers' offense. I know most of them were down, whatever. Yeah. But okay, so let's just kind of go down the line. Gleyber Torres upgrade, second base. Is
Upgrade.
he
Yeah, sure.
an absolute stud? No. Is he going to lose some of the power numbers going from New York to Detroit? Absolutely. So he's fine. He's better than so basically him coming means they moved Colt Keith to first base.
Get Torkelson out of there. That guy's
no, he might still DH.
Oh, I guess that's
I don't think they're
fair.
done with him. I think they're going to just give him another shot.
Oh, yeah, he would be.
He's got like one more chance left, basically. And if not, it's time. Another one. He's 25 years old.
I'm going to say it. Yeah, I was looking at his age.
Going to be 26.
Yeah.
So he's
figure it out or you're done, buddy.
Yeah, and I want him to be good. I have nothing against the guy. But Riley Green is their guy.
Yep.
He's their number 1 hitter right now. You're asking a lot out of him. Mm-hmm. Kerry Carpenter is also very good, but to Griff's point, he's not very good against lefties. He's trying to make a case for himself to be able to play against lefties because he's kind of worthwhile to have in the field regardless. But if he can't hit lefties, he's not in the lineup every day. That's another guy that they just don't have. And then from there, you're naming like Jake Rogers, their catcher, whatever. Wensiel Perez, Jace Jung, who is relatively young, but we don't really know what his deal is. I was way better than he was last year in his 79 at-bats. But it's crazy. So, what's crazy, though? Like, we're talking about this division, and, like, everything's so tight. Like, this isn't an offensive division by any means.
No, not at all.
So it's like... while talking about any other division, I didn't be like, oh, let me see how bad this guy was. They're like, oh, I wonder what they did. And they're just not above replacement level.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, we want him to improve. I find it hard to believe he's going to be a negative 0.5 WAR next year. But
I mean,
What are you expecting?
It was a Jay Hay that said that there's no really good team in the American League, right?
And it's true.
And the more I listen to previews, the more I'm like, oh, he's right. Like the American League is, I mean, especially with like the coming down to earth that the Yankees are doing, and I mean it's wide open, and these teams just don't seem to have the star power that we see in the NL.
Yeah, they scored. I mean, they scored 26 runs less than the Guardians, so they were fourth in the division in runs.
Yeah,
and again, they were second in the division in runs given up.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, pitching wise, just for the division as a whole, 621 from the Guardians, 642 from the Tigers, and 644 from the Royals. And what have we talked about this whole time? Their pitching staffs are very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's
Yeah,
what we've
yeah.
said. Hey, we haven't had like a bad take on a pitching staff. We're like, all right, they could make something happen. This is pretty solid. You know, they're at least average when you get to 4 and 5. Throughout a major league season, you need average guys to get through.
Exactly.
You get to postseason, I need 2 studs.
Give me
and
studs in the
somebody that can
postseason.
make it
Yeah.
work. So Trey Sweeney, shortstop, I think he's going to start. They have a couple guys that could come through the system. They have this Kevin McGonigal kid who's supposed to be good. I don't know much about him. I haven't seen him hit. He hasn't hit one of the absolute mammoth home runs that I love seeing out of prospects. That's awesome. But he's supposed to be really good. People are very high on him. Chris Clegg also high on him. So I'm questioning them. Parker Meadows also, he's a young star for them, but he's hurt. So I think
sounds like we don't have a decision yet.
I'm willing to just guess. I'm like I don't even know what to do right now. I'm torn, and we only have one team left. I think
we've got two teams. Well,
one.
We
one
have
for
one
the
team
running.
that matters.
One
Yeah.
for the running.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see what the Twins and White Sox have to say now. But I'm interested in the Tigers. I obviously I picked them first, but. I wasn't. I was convinced otherwise.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the Twins.
We've got Tyler. That's your boy.
Yep.
He is at TRIV as in Victor, ARD as in Delta 84 on Instagram. So let's see what Tyler's got on the Twins.
Hit it.
Hey, Tyler Rivard here, doing your preview for the 2025 Minnesota Twins. Last year, I had projected them to potentially win the AL Central and make the playoffs. As of September 2nd last season, they had a 92% chance of doing so. But of course, in classic Minnesota fashion, found a way to clinch defeat from the jaws of victory and miss the playoffs altogether. So this offseason, the notoriously cheap ownership, the Pohlads, have decided to sell the team. During this offseason, we have not made many meaningful moves or additions to the roster. Having said that, do have a pretty solid core. The big question mark for the team is just staying healthy. Byron Buxton and Royce Lewis in particular are great offensive weapons, but unfortunately just consistently are missing extended stretches of time throughout the season, which has cost the Twins dearly. Also have Carlos Correa, a big addition a couple of years ago. He's been an anchor both offensively and defensively for the team. They do have a solid rotation as well as bullpen. Nothing special, but no glaring weaknesses either. I would say the key to the Twins' success this year would be the team staying relatively healthy. Hopefully, if they're in some level of contention, they'll try to make a move at the July trade deadline. And ultimately, it really depends on the rest of the division. The Kansas City Royals invested heavily in their team, and then the Guardians are just always a thorn in the side of all the rest of the teams in the division. So I think that ultimately the Twins are likely to miss the playoffs this year, but they have an outside chance of potentially sneaking in as a wild card if they can stay healthy. So we'll hope for the best. Ultimately, we hope to hear good news on the sale of the team and find an ownership group that's more willing to invest in the future. Thanks.
Hit it.
Tyler, thank you so much. You know what? As a fan, I think there's nothing more exciting than hearing your owners that you don't like are selling the team, right? That's got to be such
big one.
Huh?
That's a big one.
Okay, I agree. It's got to be something that you got to go, well, it sucks for right now, but I cannot wait to see what the future might hold. So here's the deal. I didn't know how I felt about the Twins. I knew I didn't feel great, and then after hearing Tyler's review, I am going to continue to not feel great. I don't know if I can, drop them below the Guardians, or actually Tigers. Wow, I don't know. This division's so tight. Look, I'm looking up and down the lineup. I mean, Correa, Buxton. They've got guys that can play, right? Ty France, former Seattle great, right?
Yeah, sure. He's the slowest guy in Major League Baseball. He is so slow.
Sorry, that was fun. So I mean, they've got guys that hit the ball, but the lineup's not necessarily deep. But I do think they have bigger names than some of these others.
Ty France also worse than I was last year.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
What was his WAR?
0.6.
Oh, okay.
Negative.
Well, look at you.
Stinks.
This is
slow.
This is your trend of this episode. You can't do it next episode, Chris. So I look at the pitching staff, and there's just, I don't know.
Whoa. What do you mean you don't know? I can't let you do that. I was going to let you go. That's fine. I can't let you go there on the pitching staff.
What do you mean?
The pitching staff is very good.
Okay. Outside of Lopez.
Bailey Ober and Joe Ryan.
Okay, Joe Ryan can throw. How good was Ober last year?
He had close to a 3 WAR, 2.9.
Okay.
Solid.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so Ober pitched better than I thought he did. Okay, so pitching staff seemed okay. Once again, main theme with this division, pitching staff looks good, right?
He's had 2.9 WAR consecutively.
Okay, so consistent pitcher.
Yes.
Love that. That's a good 3.
That's
for
my
sure.
point. Okay, that's where I'm going with that.
No, that's completely
They're
fair.
more than serviceable, and Pablo Lopez is an ace.
Yeah, Lopez is definitely an ace. I completely agree with that. And Ryan's good.
Ober better than Ober better than Ryan. Actually.
Wow. Okay, so Ober's been pitching better than I thought he did. Okay, so perfect. So here's the deal. The Twins fans aren't excited about them, but I do feel like the Twins have some pop and some power in places that some of these other teams don't. And look, I don't want to be like, well, you got to stay healthy, because that's not how this works, right? You've got to.
Oh, they have the pentultimate man of staying healthy, and that's Royce Lewis.
Oh yeah.
That guy he'll be healthy. He'll hit like 9 home runs in April and be like, this guy's going to win the MVP. And then he will inevitably get hurt.
Yep.
Something, God knows what. And then he'll come back in like July and he'll hit another 9 home runs before the All-Star break. And then he'll be done.
Yeah.
And that'll be it.
I mean, think about it.
I want him to be good so bad.
Buxton, Lewis, and Correa, I mean, they've got the bones to be a very good baseball team. So I actually think I'm moving the Twins up my board, if I'm being quite honest with you.
Okay.
Tyler didn't really convince me much, but I mean, if the team sells too, like you get new owners in, but they start doing some things, like the Orioles ownership, like that changed the trajectory of the team. That it could be that type of situation. Who knows? We don't know when it's going to happen, but there seems to be some positive things in Minnesota. My stock on them is rising a little, so. I mean, we still got to hear about the White Sox, but we'll see where I land.
Where they end up.
What do you get?
I don't. All the same reasons. I think there's a larger. I have to look. I think there's a pretty significant drop off after their main guys, and their main guys are question marks. Your main guys we're adding Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton to. And we have no idea. Again, we want to assume they're healthy. You can't. You can't assume they're healthy because they never are. They just aren't. I'm sorry.
Chris, we're not allowed to do that, Chris. They're not injured right now. They're not injured right now.
Says who?
Says they're not on the list.
Correa, very good player. He's their guy. I'm all for that. Let's even say they're all healthy. Lewis, Correa, Buxton.
Yeah.
Willie Castro was fine last year. He'll work out well.
There's a drop after that for sure.
A huge drop. Matt Wallner's okay. Trevor Larnach, okay. They lost Kepler, but he was hurt last year.
Yeah, but can't you argue? Sorry to cut you off. That those 3 are better than other teams' top 3?
No.
Yes. Give me the Guardians' top 3. Go.
You didn't ask me a specific team.
In this division.
Are they better than the Guardians?
Top 3.
Yeah.
No. Yes, they are. They're definitely better than Guardians' top 3 because you got Ramirez.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
They're not better than the Royals.
So give me the Royals' top 3.
Bobby Witt Jr., who's leaps and bounds better than any one of those guys.
I don't disagree.
He's worth 2 of them. Vinny P, Salvador Perez, Jonathan India, they're better. Get over it.
No, they're not.
Okay.
No, they're
Well,
not.
they are.
No, they're not. Perez, absolutely not. Like, look, he's a great catcher. But he's on the end of his career. He's not the top 3. I would say it's Witt, Pasquantino, and then India would be their 3, which I would say all healthy. Correa, Buxton, and Lewis are better than those 3. Okay. I disagree.
Okay, and you could be wrong in your disagreement. But I will give them credit. Their bullpen's good. I like John Duran, Griffin Jacks. I have former Mariner Justin Topa's there. He hasn't pitched in a while. Was he there? Where did I find him? Where the hell was he? Okay, he's up here. Yeah, he's starting the year on the IL. They've got a kid coming up to Luke Keschall. I don't know how to pronounce it. Second baseman, infield, outfield. I don't know. He could play anywhere, apparently. He's supposed to be pretty good. Fast little guy, going to hit for contact, not a ton of power, but could be a game changer for them in terms of what they're looking for. They still have Brooks Lee, prospect. He's 24. I'll give him prospect status still. He could turn into something. They have the ability to be good. I just don't trust it very much. I don't have much faith in their bats beyond the main guys.
Yeah.
And I still have my doubts on how much those main guys are going to be around. I love Royce Lewis.
Yeah.
I really do. I enjoy watching him play because he hits home runs all the goddamn time. But I need you on the field, man. And that's as simple as that. And the conversation, if they're all on the field, the conversation comes All-Star break is different. I'm fine to have to rehash that conversation. Okay. But for now, I do like the rotation. I like Lopez. I like Ober. I like Ryan. I'm a big fan of Simeon Woods Richardson. They're waiting on him to completely click. He hasn't quite yet. I think he had a decent season. He had a 2 WAR. That's fine.
David Festa is a young pitcher.
People like him.
Like a lot of good
people
things
like
coming
him.
out from him. Yeah.
A lot of good information coming on David Festa, people I trust, so I can get behind that. And he's 25 too, so him and Woods Richardson on the younger end, and they still have Chris Paddock. I don't love him in the rotation. I've been wanting him to be good since he's been a Padre. He's kind of been a reliever. He's started. He's all over the place. He'll be fine. If he's your 5 starter, you could get something out of him. I'm trying to look at the rest of the team here. Yeah, just some other bullpen guys. I think last year, I see the name. I think I picked Louis Varland to be like their breakout player or
Love
something.
that.
You shouldn't. I bet he was. Think he was worse than me. Hang on.
Yeah, I do think. I think he was worse.
I think he provided good.
He was worse to the Twins than you were.
He was way worse. Oh boy, he was negative 1.4. I was way wrong. But yeah, so I know we had our little spat there, but I don't think that their lineup is any better than any other team right now. Okay. I do think it's better than the Guardians, but I think the Tigers have more potential on the rest of their lineup than these guys do. I think from that top 3, 4, whatever you want to call it, I think that fall, like Ty France, I don't care for you. Ryan Jeffers is solid. I like him. Forgot about him. Catcher. I think he had a good season. So now I'm mad.
You're talking yourself out of it.
I kind of am.
Yeah.
Because I like their pitching, and I picked them last year. I love Pablo Lopez. Okay.
All right,
I can be convinced.
We'll
come back.
We're gonna come back. All right, so let's get to the White Sox, and then let's kind of revisit and see where we stand after all of this. So who do we got for the White Sox?
White Sox, we've got Ike Gordon. His ad is at the Cinco _5. I can't wait to hear what we've got on the White Sox.
Hit it.
I mean, what is there to say heading into the season after the White Sox just set the modern-day baseball record for the most losses in the season at 121 losses, passing the 1962 Mets, who were only in their first season ever. We did not add any exciting players really this offseason. I mean, you could say Michael A. Taylor, Joey Gallo. All those guys aren't going to make an impact, but at least they're names you've heard of before. The only pitcher who gave us a chance to win every time he was on the mound, Garrett Crochet, has now changed his shade of socks from white to red, so he's gone. Luis Robert is the only quote-unquote star this team has, but even with all that talent he possesses, between injuries and poor play, he also has not lived up to the potential when he's being crowned as the Cuban Mike Trout when we signed him out of Cuba. He also may only be here until the trade deadline, and at least that's the hope. If he can bounce back this year and have a decent first half, and we can get a few good prospects for him. So how does the rest of the roster shape up? Starting pitching, young, inexperienced, and likely not good this year. Bullpen probably will be one of the worst in the league. Hitting will be non-existent most days. So let's try to be positive about this season for at least a second. It's going to take a lot of effort. I do think Will Venable will be a breath of fresh air for this organization after the terrible hires of the aging and way past his prime Tony La Russa and the nobody Pedro Grifol. I think Venable, with this young roster, builds a locker room that doesn't become quite as toxic as those Sox have had in the past few years. I think he brings a good energy, and I think he'll get these young guys preparing the best that they can night in and night out. Top prospect Colson Montgomery will be fun to watch if he breaks camp as the starting shortstop for this team. Looking to the future, the Sox do have some good prospects coming down the pipe, including having the top 2 left-handed pitching prospects in all of Major League Baseball, Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith. And then the AAA battle between Kyle Reel and Edgar Quero. It'll be fun to see who takes a driver's seat to be the future behind the plate with Chicago. It's going to be another long year on the South Side, and all we can do is pray to the baseball gods that Jerry Reinsdorf sells this team as soon as possible, preferably to the Sheba brothers.
Hit it.
All right, that was Ike Gordon, again, at @the5 on X. Thank you very much. So, yeah, that's about what I expected.
Oof.
But, I mean, they're, the worst team in Major League Baseball history last year. So, it's tough to
Nowhere to go but up, right?
And you traded your best player.
Nowhere to go but yikes. Yeah, that's true. They did trade their best player. They got Mike Dodgeman.
Come on. Stop that.
I'm trying to find something.
There isn't much.
No.
There really isn't at all, and it's unfortunate. Luis Robert, it's the writing's on the wall. I don't know why they've held out this long, but he's going to get traded. At this point, whatever, I don't even know what type of numbers he's putting up, but I wouldn't surprise to see Andrew Vaughn get moved at some point as well. They did bring in Joey Gallo. They're letting him hang on to the dream for whatever reason. But yeah, they're just not doing anything. The only thing so this is a way worse situation than the Nationals, of course. But the situation is, hey, let me see the new guys, or let me see the young guys. Come play them. So they got Kyle Teal from the Red Sox this offseason in the Crochet deal. They also got Braden Montgomery. The issue is Teal's a little closer, but some of these guys are a little bit ways away. He mentioned the 2 lefties, Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz. I think they're still a little bit away. So it's still like they're not even here yet, and then we have to wait still. So how long does it take for all this to happen? And in the meantime, they just don't have anything. Luis Robert, Andrew Vaughn, Miguel Vargas, I guess. Colson Montgomery, here's one. He should start the season up there. So there's a guy, but other than that, I think I'm going to check on this. I think Brandon Drury was like the worst qualified player in Major League Baseball last year.
Correct, yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me they didn't change any money. Jerry Reinsdorf's a piece of shit owner. Was, always will be. He had -2 WAR, by the way.
Yeah.
Brandon Drury. So I don't have anything else to say, right? Like
Look,
I'm trying to be as nice as I can, but it's all. Oh, here, you want to know who their closer is? Mike Clevenger, Justin Anderson, Fraser Eller, Justin Leisure, Gus Varlin.
Yeah, good luck.
No, that's fine. They're all named closer.
Love it. Love it.
On Fangraphs.
Look,
if Fangraphs can't even pick two, you're like, what the hell's going on here?
Here's the only positive thing you can say about the Chicago White Sox. I just looked it up. They are technically, their farm system is ranked 4th.
That's fine. That's
Right?
good. That makes sense.
Right. So, which is good, right? You would expect them to have a good farm system, considering they just lost 120 games and they're trading away everybody. And they're going to do it again. So, as a White Sox fan, your hope, the only thing you can cling on to is that we have a bunch of young talent and maybe we'll sell the team. And both of those things can result in a good ending years from now. But right now, they are so far away from being a part of any conversation.
Yeah.
And that's got to be so devastating. I've seen the stadium. It's empty, right? No one's going.
Yeah, and it's not a very good stadium. So
No.
I think he's like, his play is to like try and get a new state or move. I don't know. It's a whole fucking thing out there. Like you said, nobody goes to the games. Even if you are a White Sox fan, like, how do you spend American dollars, hard-earned money? Put it this way. I'm glad that I knocked them off my stadium tour list that I want to do like years ago.
Yeah.
Because this team stinks.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even want to be like, oh, let's go to Chicago, let's travel there. Like, not for this stupid ass team.
Yeah.
As currently constructed. 2 years from now, if all these guys are up and performing, yeah, great. Let's go check. They could be exciting, potentially. And again, you know, as well as I know, as well as the rest of the baseball world knows, that number 4 ranking doesn't mean shit.
Doesn't. Yeah.
The potential out the wazoo.
Yep.
But how many of these guys pan out, don't pan out? And especially considering the White Sox and their track record, these guys have to overcome all of the, not negativity, all of the lack of development. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do develop really well, but it doesn't look that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not true. They definitely don't. And the reason for that is they got 4 studs from the Red Sox with the Crochet deal, right? So they're ranking 2021 20th, 2022 30th, 2023 28th, and then last year 18th. Like, so their farm system's been bad traditionally too. So I think they've got a real bump in the arm because of that trade. So good for them. They're not going to get that king's ransom for Robert, but they probably will get more, and that's good for them. But again, you got to have guys that can play now. Benintendi was a superstar coming up through the ranks, right? We got to watch him here in Greenville when he was coming up the Red Sox system, right? And he was a stud. His WAR was like -7, I think. It was really, really, really bad. Like, we were better for the White Sox than he was by a long shot. And so they just don't have. You can't just count on the farm system. You got to build both directions. And I hate it for White Sox fans. It must be very demoralizing. So again, nothing new. Kind of what we expected. Thank you so much for submitting that. It takes a lot to support a team, even in their worst. So kudos to you, Ike. All right, Chris. It's our turn to wrap this up.
I have not moved the White Sox. Breaking news.
Correct. White Sox
They're 5th.
Still dead last. All right, sweet. So let's go. Give me your 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you want to go the other direction? Give me 4. Give me 4. And I'll give you my 4.
Guardians.
Tigers.
3 is 3 is the Twins.
Guardians. They dropped. They plummeted. Jay Hay convinced me not to hang
Who
my
I
hat
got
on the
left?
Guardians.
Royals, Tigers. Royals 2. I'm sticking with the Tigers.
Royals 2. So we agree on the Royals and White Sox. I'm going to say Twins. Twins.
Where did I put the Twins? 3.
Yeah, I got Twins, Royals, Guardians, Tigers, White Sox.
Tigers, Royals, Twins, Guardians, White Sox.
Okay. I mean, look, I think that there are 4 teams that you can make.
Nothing will surprise me.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Fun. how close do they finish? Because we had a couple, we've done a couple of divisions where we were like, it's within 5, and this was kind of a runaway. There was like 6 games.
6.5 separating the top 3, Cleveland, Kansas City.
So what do we
Tigers.
think is going to separate these 4 teams that we can't really decide on it, and none of the previews have actually helped either, like cement who we're going to believe in. So I'm going to say no more than, I'd say 8. No more than
for
8.
4?
For the 4 teams.
There were 10.5.
Was it 10.5 last year? Okay. I was thinking 10, but I think 10 was too big of a number. So I'm going to say 8.
I'm going to go one under that. I'm going to go 7.
Wow. Okay.
Because I don't know if anybody gets 90 wins.
Oh, I agree.
The Guardians had 92.
Say what?
The Guardians had 92 last year. I don't think anybody gets to 90.
I think that.
So that means that
you need to win
just gonna
89
get tighter.
games.
The Twins won 82.
Yeah.
And they finished 10.5. So they were just over 500.
Yep.
Yeah, 7 games. I feel comfortable there.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it should be a lot of fun to watch. So
you know, well, I think it was just writing on the wall, but Bobby Witt Jr. is obviously the MVP of the.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Well, him, Scooble, right?
Scooble, Jose Ramirez, like
there's a lot of star power at the time. I mean, Cole Reagan's ace.
Yep.
Okay, but it's Bobby Witt, right? Is this?
What was that?
I don't know.
Is this what? Complete
Do
that
you
thought.
think that Scooble takes Cy Young again?
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. I think Crochet makes it very interesting, but I do think no. I take it back. I'm going to put all my eggs in the Crochet basket.
Okay. Yeah, so not Scooble.
I think it'll be close.
So the follow-up question is: Bobby Witt Jr. Does he get an MVP?
Yes, I do, because I think Judge takes a step back this year.
Okay.
Yep. So I think it's Bobby's
high expectations out of the Central of the top.
So the top,
but that's the story of it. It's that their top like 3 or 4 players of pitching and hitting are great, and then we get
falls
nothing
off a cliff. Yeah.
So I'm excited for this division. It is going to be fun to keep an eye on throughout the season. You got anything else?
No. Everybody, please go and follow all of the people that submitted their previews to us today. Their tags will be in the show notes. Give them a listen, give them a follow, tell them how much you appreciated them participating. They're doing us a huge favor. So, again, if this is your first, 5th, 6th, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much for listening. Please listen to all of them. Until then, my name is Andrew.
And I'm Chris.
And this is the Coach's Sons Podcast.